Clearance delivery out packet 2084 IFR to Tree Whiskey 2 ready to copy.
Out packet 2084 is cleared to Tree Whiskey 2 airport as filed. Takeoff runway 28 right climb and maintain 8,000 feet. Departure frequency is 126.625 squawk 4117.
Out packet 2084 cleared to Tree Whiskey 2 airport as filed. Takeoff runway 28 right climb and maintain 8,000 feet. Departure on 126.625 squawk 4117.
Out packet 2084 readback is correct. Contact ground on 121.675 when ready to taxi.
Ground out packet 2084 requesting pushback.
Out packet 2084 pushback request accepted.
Yeah, careful of the moving blade that you're potentially walking through. Propeller might be a better word for it. Yeah, I know the initial inertia separator is on. That's for a reason. I'm on the ground. They really got to fix that bug. It's really obnoxious. Alright, we don't need to be really pushed back here, so stop.
Ground out packet 2084 requesting the end of pushback.
Out packet 2084 request to end pushback received.
Ground out packet 2084 with India ready to taxi IFR.
Out packet 2084 taxi to and hold short of runway 28 right via taxiway Victor 5 Yankee. Contact tower on 133.0 when ready.
Taxiing hold short runway 28 right via taxiway Victor 5 Yankee out packet 2084.
Alright, we need to get moving. We're losing daylight. Because we are on live time. And we're on... you're trying to get hit, mister. Alright. Ground? What do you mean? I already communicated with them. You don't have any audio? Oh, then... You don't hear the engines now? You don't hear the engines now? Or the engine, I should say. I'll kill the stream and I'll renew it. Just give me a second. You've got the volume turned up on your iPad though, right? Let's start off with the easy.
Oral warning, okay.
This is 28 right.
Tower Alpaca 2084 at runway 28 right, ready for takeoff IFR to Tree Whiskey 2.
3 Whiskey 2
Alpaca
is put in Bay
2084
Airport.
cleared for takeoff runway 28 right.
Cleared for takeoff runway 28 right, Alpaca 2084.
So you're not hearing any of that? Okay. Alright, let me know when you're reconnected. Well, I mean, I'll know, but just, you know. Did you hear the beep? Okay, good. Alright, so you heard the master warning. So, whatever issues we had are solved. Let's get going here. On the clock. 28 right for 3 Whiskey 82. A little bit of wind right to left. Some right rudder for stabilization here. Keep us on the center line. Looking for 90 knots. There's 90. Rotate. Nose coming up. Positive rate of climb. Gear up. Maintain runway heading here for a bit. Climbing up to 8,000 for initial. Let's trim out here. Get the trim set. A little bit of a dip. There's trim. Alright, let's get those flaps up. Flaps coming up.
Alpaca 2084 contact Chicago departure on 126.625.
12665. Let's get autopilot on here.
for Alpaca 2084.
Switch our vertical speed.
Chicago departure Alpaca 2084 is climbing through 1,600 feet for 8,000 feet.
Alpaca 2084 Chicago departure continue as planned. Altimeter 29.902.
Got some ITT warnings. That's heat. We got that taken care of. We'll begin our right turn here soon. Right now we're headed west, which is the opposite direction of where we need to go. Here's the right turn that the automation has kicked in for our next waypoint. Waypoint Echo Lima X-ray Elks. Elks is somewhere out over Lake Michigan, I believe. It's an actual VOR, so it's physically there. It's not a satellite-based waypoint. It's an actual physical VOR for navigation, right? So. In other words, you could actually hit it if you were on Lake Michigan on a boat, right? Yeah. Sure, yeah. LAS. That's correct. That would be LAS VOR. And that one has a very high frequency, so it can, you can hit that VOR 195 nautical miles or less outside of that VOR, which is pretty, that's basically as high as it goes. All right, we're coming up on our initial 8,000, which is not our cruising altitude, but it's our initial.
Alpaca 2084 climb and maintain flight level 200.
200.
Climb and maintain flight level 200 Alpaca 2084.
Look at that. By the time we made our turn and flew back over the airport, we're already at 8,400. The massive O'Hare. So we took off a 28 right, which is around 10,000 feet in length. 28 center, which is just to the left of that, is 13,000 feet. And that's where your 7.4s and your A380s, and that's what they use to take off.
Alpaca 2084 contact Chicago Center on 120.35.
120.35 Alpaca 2084. Chicago Center Alpaca 2084 is at 9,800 feet climbing flight level 200.
Alpaca 2084 Chicago Center, continue to Echo Lima X-ray as planned. Altimeter 29.92.
Yeah, so considering the cloud layer that we're coming up on, and it's -3, -5, we're not to our cruising altitude yet, so we're gonna be turning on our windshield de-icer, prop de-icer, the de-icer light, and the airframe de-icer. All that's coming on. If we get above the cloud layer, we'll turn all that off. But for now, torque. Yep, thank you. See, I've got my own in-flight co-pilot.
Alpaca 2084 climb and maintain flight level 210.
One second.
Climb and maintain flight level 210 Alpaca 2084.
Alpaca 2084 contact Chicago Center on 127.55.
127.55 Alpaca 2084. Chicago Center Alpaca 2084 is at flight level 200 climbing flight level 210.
Alpaca 2084 Chicago Center, continue to Echo Lima X-ray as planned.
Alright, so still inbound to ELX, which is good. All part of the plan. Erie. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Put in bay. Alright, we can kill the inertia separator. Alright, so what was your question earlier about the ITT? I might have. Yeah, that's a problem right there, yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. So, yeah. So the ITT spikes a little bit over 800 on startup, which is normal. You just don't want it to hang over 800 for very long. And then it was relatively warm when we left O'Hare, and we were at full throttle all the way down the runway. So our ITT spiked again, which is not too much of a problem. We backed off after takeoff. It's just not something you want to sustain over time. You're going to end up with a lot of engine damage and unnecessary wear over time, right? So. Sure. Yeah, so the standard practice, what a lot of airports do during winter operations, are they will sometimes do de-icing at the gate, but a lot of times what they'll do is they'll do an initial de-icer at the gate, and then they'll get closer to the runway that they're taking off of, and then they'll do a de-icing right there. And then they take off. Because, yeah, if you get snow accumulation, and you've got, you know, more freezing stuff coming down that can build up while you're taxiing. Taxiing can take 30, 40 minutes, hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes. You never know. So yeah, those are pretty standard operations now to taxi out, get close to the runway, and then there's a little area, a holding area for de-icing, and then immediate takeoff. And then, yeah, once they're airborne, it's not much of a concern. They've got the wing de-icers on, the engine de-icers on, all of that stuff as they're climbing out. It's stuff. So the only caveat or the downside to using engine de-icers and wing de-icers and stuff like that is the amount of power and fuel that actually burns through. So you lose a little bit of your overall engine performance when you have your engine de-icers on. And so therefore you can't climb at your ascent rate can't be as steep. You got to bring that down a little bit more shallow of ascent. So that's one downside of it. And then there's the fuel aspect of it. You're burning fuel, which means you're burning dollars. So you don't really want to have the de-icers on if you don't need them. So once you're above the precipitation layer and the cloud layers, it doesn't matter if it's negative 40 degrees outside. There's no precipitation in the air, so you're not going to have an icing event. And even if you do, it's relatively short, and you can flick that stuff on for a little while and then turn it off again. But it's quite the fuel burner, and it's quite the performance degradator. So. Alright, we're basically over Lake Michigan now. Or, I mean, almost beyond it. So yeah, we normally fly to Cleveland International, and then
Alpaca 2084, contact Chicago Center on 134.15.
134.15 for Alpaca 2084. Chicago Center Alpaca 2084 flight level 210.
Alpaca 2084, Chicago Center, continue as planned.
okay. So yeah, like I was saying, we normally fly to Cleveland, and then Maria usually picks us up, and then we usually drive straight out to. So they have a house in Cleveland, and then they also have like a lake house. That's closer to a lot closer to Put-in-Bay. I believe it's Lakeside Marblehead is the town they live in, and Lakeside is just directly, pretty much due south of Put-in-Bay Island. Put-in-Bay might be a little bit northwest, but you'll see once we get closer. So we stay at there, and then we take a ferry to get to Put-in-Bay. It's a short ferry. It's like 20 minutes or something like that. So. Well, it's Ohio, it's not Michigan. So Put-in-Bay is east of Toledo.
127.55
And north of
for Alpaca
Sandusky.
208.
Sandusky is like the closest larger town that I can think
Center,
of.
Alpaca 2084 flight level 210.
Alpaca 2084, Chicago Center, continue to plane as planned.
Yeah, there is a peninsula. It's called Sandusky Bay, and they're on the north side of that peninsula. So Port Clinton is really close to Lakeside Marblehead. Port Clinton is just west of it. Yeah, so that's where we're headed. Now, I know you can refuel, well, yeah, you can refuel at Put-in-Bay Airport in real life, but I don't know if we're going to be able to refuel in the simulator, because I don't know what level of realism the airport has in this sim. It may be, you know, we're going to be lucky if the runway is concrete. So we'll see. I don't know what level of detail they went over for such tiny airports across the world. There's 37,000 airports in the simulator, and they didn't give them all attention. As you can imagine, that would take forever. So some airports like O'Hare received a lot of attention, obviously, and a lot of hand crafting, if you will. And then there's airports that receive hardly any handcrafting, and it's more AI generated computing stuff that actually takes care of the graphics at the airport. It's pretty crazy too, like none of this scenery, well, the very, very basic level of definition, the very, very basic, definition of the scenery is actually downloaded onto your local computer. The rest of the high definition images you see, especially when we get closer to the ground and a lot of buildings come into play and a lot of trees and a lot of rivers and all of that good stuff, all of that you're actually pulling down from the internet, from Microsoft's cloud platform. It's called Azure. It's their Azure cloud platform, and it's petabytes and petabytes worth of images that they've got stored on these servers on their cloud, data centers. So you're actually downloading these images real time as you fly near them or over them, and that's how they can make the sim look so realistic without you needing a data center to, in order to actually download it. So it's actually a quite small download considering what you get, right? You get the entire world, 37,000 airports, over 30 aircraft, all of that under around 100 gigs, which is nothing compared to some of the larger sims out there and some of the larger games on the market right now. So it's pretty impressive. Yeah, so Microsoft already had a massive repository of satellite images because of the Bing. Google has Google, right? And Microsoft has Bing. So Bing is a search engine, but it's also much more than that, right? So there are all of the satellite photo stuff they already had. So it was just a matter of how do we get that into the simulator, and then how do we make all of the buildings appear in 3D and not just flat, you know what I mean? And so they used a company, I believe in Sweden, called Black Shark AI. And Black Shark AI basically analyzes the Bing photos from above, but also they analyze the photos that there are companies out there that actually, you know what Google, you know how Google maps like cities, right? They have these Google cars that drive around, and exactly. So they accomplished that with cars. Well, they also accomplished that same thing with planes. They mount cameras on the front, the aft, and the sides of planes, and it takes basically 3D images. They fly low over cities, and it takes these images from different angles and stuff like that. Well, then what Black Shark does is they take those images, and they take all of those different images, and they extrapolate that out using machine learning and a lot of data analytics and stuff like that, and it creates the 3D images that we see in the sim. So it's a crazy marriage of different companies and teams and stuff like that to actually make this happen. It took somewhere around 7 years. I think they've been working on it in total. So all right, so we just passed over the plane VOR, and now we're headed to the GERBS waypoint. And then I have no idea where we're headed to after that. If you have any ideas, wink wink, let me know.
Alpaca 2084, contact Cleveland Center on 120.
Cleveland Center, all right.
120.45 for Alpaca 2084. Cleveland Center, Alpaca 2084, flight level 210.
Alpaca 2084, Cleveland Center, continue as planned.
So when you go from one center to the next center, Chicago Center to Cleveland Center, they have you squawk an ident to show up on their radar. So that's where this simulator needs to improve, is that doesn't always happen. But it's also difficult too, because we're transitioning from an actual person with air traffic controller capabilities to the rest of this flight is all AI, so it's all of the Microsoft Flight Simulator AI ATC technology that's built into it, so that's probably why. But in real life, you would come down here and the previous center, so Chicago Center, would have you say contact Cleveland Center on 120.45. Once you contacted Cleveland Center on 120.45, they would have you squawk an ident in order to show up on their radars. That's what the traditional, that's transition of how that would work. But it's early days yet. This thing's only been out 4 days, so there's a lot of improvements to come. And the flight sim community, a lot of us are giving feedback constantly. We're all reporting on little bugs and things we see along the way. So it's a multi-year project for them. It's not like they released the sim and then they're just going to walk away from it. That's not the plan. That was this one. That was this simulator. I was on the alpha for this for a year before it officially released. I just wasn't allowed to share any photographs or videos or anything like that because I was under NDA, so. No, but the only thing I can say that's relatively close to what you're saying, because that's not how that works, but there's applications and all kinds of prerequisites for that kind of job. But one thing I can say is that there are certified simulators by the FAA, and this will be one of them given some time. It's got some more bake time, and it's got some more things, and it's got some classifications and certifications and stuff that it's got to go through for it to be an FAA certified simulator. And for other simulator, companies that actually build those, big simulators that they train real world pilots inside, before this simulator ends up in one of those, it's got to go through all kinds of crazy certs. But anyway, so where this comes into play is once this is an FAA certified simulator, as long as you do vigorous logging and can show proof of your simulator hours and show proof of your flights and give some sort of statistical feedback to whoever you're presenting the data to, you can actually count that towards hours towards, your PPL or your instrument flight rating or your CPL or your ATP license or whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. You can use simulators as an advantage for someone that is just not doing it at all. But it's not like this crazy advantage. But it's definitely helpful. There are many instructors out there in the world that can tell when someone has been in the simulators for many years versus someone that's never flown before. And now they're in the the cockpit for the very first time. They can tell the difference between those two individuals. And part of the reason is because of this right here. What we're looking at right now is a basically one-for-one replica of what the inside of a TBM 930 is, right? Most of these bells, switches, and whistles, they all work, right? True to life. So, and this is what us simmers spend time doing, is looking at all of this stuff. And very rarely are we like looking out there, right? We've had a lot of simulators that are pretty much ugly, so there's nothing to look out really. This is the first time in a simulator where you look out the window and you go, God, that's beautiful. Other simulators, for the most part, are ugly, and So we spend a lot of time just looking at this part right here and learning what all of this stuff means. And so a flight instructor, when meeting a student like that for the first time, can tell that they're very familiar with looking at their instruments, and they're not falling to that trap of looking out the windows and going, ooh, look, pretty things. Like, no, we're looking at all of this stuff, right? This is the important stuff. Yes, it's important to keep like an eye on the horizon and
Alpaca 2084, you are 70 miles west. Descend and maintain 13,000 feet. Expect vectors. Visual runway 21 approach.
13,000.
Alpaca 2084, descend and maintain 2,600 feet.
Descend and
2,600.
maintain 2,600 feet. Expect vectors. Visual runway 21 approach. Alpaca 2084.
I don't know about 2,600. This is also where the simulator air traffic control falls down. Because we're a good 70 miles or so from nautical miles from Put-in-Bay, and it's a little early for 2,600. So we'll program 2,600 in. But once we get below 10,000, we'll bring back that vertical descent rate.
Contact Cleveland Center on 128.625.
Yeah.
Going to 128.625. Alpaca 2084.
Fantastic.
Cleveland Center. Alpaca 2084 is at flight level 195, descending 2,600 feet.
It's not like I was talking or anything.
Alpaca 2084, Cleveland Center. Continue as planned.
Okay. So, where was I? Oh, yeah. So once we get below 10,000, right now we're descending at 1,800 feet per minute. I'll bring that up to more like 600, 500 feet per minute. Yeah. Because that's just a little unrealistic for this distance. Utilizing the 3x3 rule, for every 10,000 feet, it's 30 nautical miles. We weren't even at, we were at 20,000 feet. So that's 60 nautical mile descent at like, you know, so the computer is off by a good 10 to 15 nautical miles. It's okay. I mean, it's still pretty impressive, but it's got some work to do. What about? That's not why, though. Well, because it's having me descend based on my distance, because that's what the simulator does, is it calculates your distance from the airport and your altitude. But the calculations, the algorithm that they currently have set is just off by a little bit. So... what did I say? 3 Whiskey 2 is Put-in-Bay. So elevation's 595, so they want us at 2,600 feet, so we'll basically be 2,100 AGL. All right, well, I mean, that's not the worst thing in the world to be 2,100 AGL in a nice, pretty area like this, right? I mean, that's not abnormal. But for a long-distance flight, it is. But a lot of the local traffic, right, between all of those little islands, there's now I'm really going to have to jog my memory here. But there's Put-in-Bay Island, there's Kelly's Island, there's Middle Bass, and that's all I can remember. But anyway, between that and the smaller airport that is in Port Clinton, there's a lot of traffic, like smaller planes, Cessnas and stuff like that flying around. And 2,000 feet is pretty normal for those kind of operations. But so. Oh, looks like the so I did report it the other day, and a lot of people reported it. But you remember when weather wasn't working from St. Louis to Chicago? It's working. But yeah, they knew about it and they were working on fixing it. It now works. So right now the altimeter is 299.6. That's one way we can tell. And another way we can tell is we had a cloud layer, right? So yeah, but the barometric pressure, the standard barometric pressure is 299.2. So if that doesn't change, it's rarely 299.2 anywhere. It sometimes is, but it's rare. So if you're showing 299.2 in your aircraft, that means the real-time weather probably is not working. I wonder if we could pull up the ATIS for, let's see. No, we can't. Can we for this? No, we can't. Okay.
Alpaca 2084, contact Cleveland Center on 119.905.
119.905 for Alpaca 2084. Cleveland Center Alpaca 2084 is out of 10,400 feet for 2,600 feet.
Alpaca 2084, Cleveland Center, continue as planned. Altimeter 290.906.
Yeah, that's why that barometric pressure in the has to match the environment. Your aircraft's pitot tubes and your other pressure and GPS and all of the instruments that are built in have to match the environment. So if you're at sea level, for example, so if the airport's at sea level, let's LaGuardia, right? LaGuardia sea level. So plus or minus, I don't know, 50 feet or whatever. If the current barometric pressure in New York is 3002, but the aircraft is set to 299.2, you're going to have a different altitude on your indicators inside the aircraft than what is in reality. So that's why you have to program the aircraft to match, not just for the sake of being able to land and take off safely, but also for the other air traffic in the area. Because if everyone else's altimeter is set to 3002, 5,000 feet above ground level, AGL, it means 5,000 feet for everybody, right? But if you're at 299.2, that's not your 5,000 feet. So you could end up with a situation where you could end up on a collision course or what have you with other traffic because your readouts and your instruments aren't set properly. So it all depends on what the Yeah, see, so right out there, off of our front right nose, at our 2 o'clock essentially, is the peninsula. And then those other little islands out there are Kelly's Island, Put-in Bay, and stuff like that. So, but we're a little ways to go. God, that's loud.
Alpaca 2084, contact Cleveland Center on 132.45.
132.45 for Alpaca 2084. Cleveland Center, Alpaca 2084, 2,600 feet.
Alpaca 2084, Cleveland Center, continue as planned. Altimeter 29.96. Alpaca 2084 Airport is at your 2 o'clock 10 miles. Maintain present heading and altitude report runway in sight.
Maintain present heading and altitude Alpaca 2084. Alpaca 2084 has the runway in sight.
Alpaca 2084, you are 9 miles north of Tree Whiskey 2. Turn right heading 170.
Turn right heading 170. Alpaca 2084. Tree Whiskey 2 traffic Alpaca 2084 9 miles north inbound visual runway 21. Tree Whiskey 2 traffic Alpaca 2084 is on final runway 21 to land.
Perry's Monument, something about the Battle of Lake Erie, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. The locals will be able to tell you more about it. But it's out here somewhere. I'm not sure that's actually going to be in the sim, though. That would be impressive if it was. So the runway is further out there. It's not this island. That's the next one over. Yeah, I'm not sure the monument is. I'm not sure the monument's actually going to show up. Let's see, how are we doing on speed and stuff here? A little fast. We can slow down a little bit more. Let's bring the gear down. I'll go back to an outside view for the recording here in a second. Let's stabilize though here for a second. Yeah, so Perry's Monument should be right off our nose here, and it should be sticking up in the sky. It's a few 100 feet tall, so it's not there, but it's this little thing here, this little gray. It's supposed to be right here. And these are the docks. This is where they bring their boat around to this side over here. They dock on this side. Alright, let's kill the autopilot. Flight directors. Let's go full manual with this. We're a bit high, so we'll come down. I have an idea. I know what we're going to do. We'll come in on the other side. I think that's what they do anyway. Trees need trimming indeed. Treetop Airlines, we've got your back. We provide a service no one else can. That's what you call a short runway. I don't think it's made for a TBM 930, but ask me if I care. It sure wasn't. So this road here off to my right is a road that you take in. You come in on the ferry over just by near where we touched down, a little further beyond it. But this road to the right, you can either rent a golf cart and then ride into town on the golf cart, or take the buses that they have going back and forth. It's a pretty short ride from the ferry to the town. I don't see how we're refueling here, so we're probably gonna have to hop over to the airport that's in on the other side on the mainland there. Refuel over there. Alright, here we are. Beautiful Put in Bay. Al, Maria, I hope you enjoyed the visuals on that one. I'll be shutting things down here. Let's get another outside view here. We can use the drone. Let's get a little drone footage in for the Mama Sia and the Papa Hayes here. Let's see. Here's the drone. Let's get the mouse out of the way there. Alright. So yeah, this is the road that I was telling you about. The ferry is down this way. It comes in. Mainland is over there. And then you take this up this way. And then the main part of town is over yonder. Whoa, I didn't mean to do that. Whoops, tilt. I don't know if there's a way to speed this up. Oh, that's not what we wanted. Oh, that's not what we wanted either. Maybe there's a way to make the drone go faster. Because we're moving at about the pace of a go-kart right now. Or a golf cart. Anyway, you get the general idea. I'm not going to do that. But anyway, that was our little flight from Chicago O'Hare to Put-in-Bay Island. Right on the golden hour. How about that? Beautiful. All right.